Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge and welcome to this week's reading wrap up, geez, I'm sorry. I just finished filming my Outlander reading vlog, so don't mind me for being that. Also, very sweaty. Okay, I just got home from my vacation week. It was amazing. I don't have a ton of books to talk about, only 8, and most of them are rereads because it was bees week, everybody. Week 48 of 2021 was Go Tell the Bees That I Am Gone week. And so everything else was kind of just filler until then. But yeah, so this will hopefully be a pretty short and concise reading wrap up for you guys, because I will also have my reaction vlog to Outlander going up. And then I will have an Outlander deep dive discussion video going up later as well. I'm gonna wait a little bit to put that up so that more people have had time to finish it, because not everybody can binge it in 3 days like I did. Okay, so let's start out with the first book that I finished last week, and that was A Resolute Man, aka Rose by Leigh Greenwood. This is the first book in the 7 Brides series by Leigh Greenwood. Leigh Greenwood is a male historical romance author, and I was very excited to read one of his books. I've been hearing about Leigh Greenwood, specifically from one of my channel members, Bonnie, for quite a while. I've asked for male romance writers who are straight, just because I was very interested to see how they would write romance, because, you know, sometimes they get a lot of shit in romance. Not that they shouldn't, you know, that's not where I'm coming from. But I'm interested in everyone's perspective of how they write romance, okay? So I would definitely put this probably at like less than a Chili Pepper's worth of steam. But I really enjoyed the story and the start of the series. And I've already started the next brothers book in the series. So there's 7 brothers, and oh, there's so much background to the story. It's amazing. So we have our oldest brother, whose name is George Randolph, and he has 6 younger brothers, one of them of whom has kind of run away and has started a new life. So we don't see him in this one at all. But all of them are named after presidents, which is funny. He's like George Washington Randolph, and they all have these crazy names. But we have George, who I believe is in his late 20s. And then there is a couple brothers who are in their early 20s, but the rest of them like are in their teens, going down to, I believe there's a 8-year-old boy. And George and Jeff, I believe, both fought in the Civil War, and they fought for the Confederacy, and they have come home. And their younger brothers, they lost their mother. Their father had kind of run away to be a part of the war as well, and just left all of them on their ranch in Texas alone. The oldest boys being like 15 when this happened, too young to fight, but not really old enough to be holding down this ranch. Their mother died not many years after the father left, because she was so heartbroken. This was a woman who was so in love with her husband, and he just did not deserve her, type of thing. So this starts out with George going into town to find a woman to be a cook and a housekeeper, and to kind of help civilize his younger brothers, is what we would say, because they've had to live a pretty crazy life, like keeping cattle rustlers away from their cattle, keeping things safe, and trying to feed themselves, basically. And they haven't been doing a super great job at it, and they're a little bit wild. And so we have our heroine, Rose, who is penniless and desperate. She's currently a waitress. She is actually the daughter of a Union officer, so from the North, and her family moved to Texas as well, and she's on her own. She's also the goddaughter of General Leigh, which nobody knows at the beginning of this book, but is something that will make her very unpopular. So George ends up kind of rescuing her from getting harassed, and because of the problems she's caused by being harassed, her boss lets her go, and she has nowhere to go. And George, knowing that it's his fault for this, he decides that he will bring her back to his ranch to work. He knows who she is. Like, she says that she's the daughter of a Union officer, and he's like, okay, we just won't tell my brothers, because I need to give you a job, and there we go. So anyway, yeah, she goes and stays there, and the boys are all very stubborn. They all have very big, loud personalities, and there's also danger because is people trying to steal their cattle. There is bad blood between their family and another family there, and they have their work cut out for them, keeping their 30,000 acres safe from the troubles. As well as, obviously, George and Rose, this is their romance. They are starting to have feelings for each other, but George has sworn that he would never have children because he thinks he'll be like his father. Yes, it is one of those situations where he doesn't want to pass on the bad blood of the family because his father was very good looking and charming and he was an asshole. And George doesn't want to pass that on. So Rose slowly over time kind of convinces him that you are a good father. Like, you are a father to your youngest brothers and you're doing a good job. Why wouldn't you do a good job with your own children? That kind of situation. So yeah, I ended up giving this book 4 stars. Like I said, I am going to continue. The romance in this was very slow burn. And again, it was pretty PG. Like, I could see this almost being a PG movie, you know, from the Old West. But again, I was very charmed. I liked all the personalities. I liked the, like, tested loyalties and how we talked through. Like, there was some great discussions about prejudice, you know, because when one of the brothers, the brother Jeff, who'd also fought in the Civil War, he was a prisoner for a while and he's missing part of his arm. And so he's very bitter against the Union soldiers. And when he finds out that Rose is the goddaughter of General Leigh, he is, you know, not happy about this. And, you know, it's a lot of discussion about, well, this isn't Rose's fault where she is. And she's in a tight place because she doesn't want to go back to the North because she doesn't really have any family there. But she is a daughter of the North, and so being in the South, who lost to the Union Army, and, you know, the Union Army kind of, like, destroyed a lot of places down south in their, you know, their trying to win the war. There's a lot of hurt feelings about it. So anyway, this was very interesting. I'm going to continue the story. I've already started the next book, which is actually about the brother who ran away and we haven't seen for a long time. And there's a pretty big, like, time jump that happens because, again, most of the brothers are children in this one still. So we're going to jump in time a little bit. So anyway, this was great. And I'm so glad I finally read one of his books. And I definitely have been keeping, like, I've bought quite a few more of his books as well. So I'm very excited about it. All right, then I got to read an arc for Nightwolf by Karina Halle. This is actually already out. I didn't get the arc until like 3 days before it came out, and then I ended up finishing it like the day before it came out. But this is the next book in kind of her paranormal vampire series. This one does work as a standalone because the first 2 were the Dark Eyes duet. Like, they were The Blood is Love, like they were a duet. And then this book, it continues with, you know, like, if you were going to read these books, you should read the first 2 first. But if you didn't want to read those 2, you could just read this one. But this one is about Amethyst and Wolf. Amethyst is a human who works at the Dark Eyes Club. She's like a bartender, and her mother actually both work there. And then Wolf is kind of the second in command to Salon, who is from the first 2 books. And they have this, like, friends to lovers situation going on. And it's amazing. This book does have major trigger warnings for loss of a parent. And there's a note in the beginning from Karina Halle that she didn't know if she could write this book because she recently lost her father and her brother pretty much in quick succession to each other. Her brother died, and then just a couple months later, her father, he passed away. And there's a lot of that pain and loss that is written into this book. So I would say be wary of that if that is something that would trigger you. There are situations in this book that directly parallel situations I've been in my life, and it was very cathartic for me. It didn't hurt me because it was very tenderly and beautifully done, because you could tell that Karina was really working through her own issues in this book and her grief, you know. And this is the first book release she had since her dad died, and her dad is always so proud of her books. Like, it's just But don't let that fool you. This was still super sexy. This still has some of the blood play going on. There is vampires in here. Wolf is a commanding man. He was a Viking. He was actually a born vampire. There are two different kinds of vampires in this world. There are born vampires and made vampires. But he is a Viking. And so he's this big, tall, blonde-haired, badass Viking man. And they just have amazing chemistry. And I would say it's just so unique because I can't name another one off the top of my head that is a vampire friends to lovers situation. It's usually an enemies to lovers or a fated mate type of thing. And this one was it was wonderful. So this one does stand alone. There's no cliffhanger. The next book in the series is actually going to be about Dracula. And if you've read the Dark Eyes duet, you've actually met Dracula before. And he does show up in Nightwolf really briefly as well too. But I'm very excited for his book to come out. I think it's called like The Blood King or something. I can't remember. But yeah, this I gave 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. Then we have one of my rereads. I listened to Thief of Shadows and was able to do my review of this. Let's give you a little Winter and Isabel peek. I love this one. This is, of course, one of my 6-star books. So this one is about Winter Makepeace, who is leading a double life. He is the headmaster of a school for unfortunate lost foundling children, as well as he's the Victorian Batman. He is this entity called the Ghost of St. Giles, and he helps take care of the poor and the maligned in St. Giles. And his position as a schoolmaster is kind of in a precarious situation during this book. And Lady Isabella Beckenhall, she is a widow, and she gets assigned to kind of help him be better at the schmoozing part of his job. And they are really drawn together. So Winter has kind of taken a vow of celibacy, not like officially, but he just decided that if he was the Ghost of St. Giles and he was taking care of the children, he couldn't also have a romance in his life. He just decided that to help him be focused to his cause. So he really becomes celibate. I mean, and as in, like, he's never before. He's a virgin. This has a virgin hero, and it has some teach me moments in it, and it's absolutely fantastic. So I'm very excited to see where this book ends up in my favorites of the year, because it is going to be very high up. I will tell you that. I absolutely loved re-listening to this book. It was such a pleasure, and I highly, highly recommend, obviously. Then I actually read The Love Hypothesis. I had been waiting. I had requested the audiobook for this, and it took me a long time to get it, obviously, because everyone's reading it. But I know this was a lot of people's in their top books of the year, and so I was very excited to get my hands on it. And this is about a PhD candidate, Olive Smith, and she ends up kissing Adam, who is a professor and a, like, badass in the field that they're in, to convince her friend on that she has moved on from, like, this guy she was interested in because her friend is more interested in him. It's a really weird thing. And then they end up in a fake dating situation because Adam is trying to convince the university that he isn't a flight risk, because they think that he's going to, like, move away and take his brilliant mind with him. So they are withholding some of his funding, and he really needs this funding. And so he's like, if I had a girlfriend, I may seem stable, like I was going to stay here. And so she's like, sure, we can do this. We will weekly meet for coffee, and we'll let people think we're together. And she ends up noticing these certain perks that happen by being his girlfriend. Like, people no longer try to, like, crowd her time in the lab, and they want to be very respectful of her so that she won't tattle on them. Not that she would, but they, like, think that she would. And yeah, this is a very slow burn. This is I would say, this is what I would say as well, because this is supposed to be like Raylo fan fiction in some elements. And yeah, like, the cover cartoon kind of looks like that. I would say if I wasn't told that the hero represented Adam Driver, like, I wouldn't have noticed it. He is definitely a type of hero. He's very, like, stoic. He's a bit of a, like, beta, but also very, like, in charge at the same time. I don't know. It was a weird combination. Not a bad one. I mean, very sexy when we get down to it. And then our heroine, I believe she would be kind of like demisexual is maybe how I would describe her, because it's very rare that she feels sexual desire, and if she does, she needs to know the person very well. So I believe I've heard other people say that. I mean, that's what she seemed to be to me, just in how she was written and how she experienced sexual desire when it finally came around. Again, I would put this on probably like a 1.5 on like a chili pepper scale. This was not a super sexy book. This is a very definitely a traditionally trade pub version, and I personally would like to see the indie pub version of this book with some more banging going on in this one. I understand why it catches so many people. I love that this was scientists, even though a lot of the sciencey parts were boring for me. I loved that this couple, just like how they went from not even enemies, but like unknown entities to each other, to this really beautiful like friendship slash, you know, relationship that came of it. And yeah, it was really cute. This was a 4-star book for me though, because it didn't catch me the way that it caught some other people, and there were some things lacking in it for me. I need more in the connection and more in the romance department than was in this. But again, if someone is demisexual or someone wants to see this great like building of the chemistry between someone, this could be really amazing for them. That's just like, I needed a little more like punch to come from that. But this was perfectly pleasant and definitely not the least enjoyable book that I read by any means. So I give this 4 stars. Then I finished the arc for Rake I'd Like to F. This is by Sierra Simone, Adriana Herrera, Eva Leigh, Nicola Davidson, and one more that I forgot. But I had an arc for this one. This is 5 kind of like novellas. There is lots of super sexy situations. This is historical. This is kind of their follow-up to Duke I'd Like to F. So we have some very interesting scenarios. We have an MM, we have a couple MMFs, and we have another MM that is like daddy kink, and then just a really spicy MF as well. So I enjoyed this a fair amount. I did not enjoy it as much as I liked Duke I'd Like to F. In this one, I will say that in each novella, it was harder for me to connect with the characters than it was in Duke I'd Like to F. Duke I'd Like to F is the same like length, you know, and there's about 80 to 100 pages per author that they get. But I don't know, something about the stories in Duke I'd Like to F, I was very invested in that story, and it also felt like a complete story. I don't know if it's because a couple of these stories have, you know, their menages, so there was 3 people in them. I didn't feel like I got to know the characters enough, and there like wasn't enough to the relationships for me. This is very spicy. This is historical erotic romance. I mean, there are still HEAs in all of them, but it's definitely more along the lines of just like spicy erotica, which I am not turning my nose up at all. I just did not love this as much as I loved the predecessor to it, although I do love what they bring to it so much. I think my favorite one was probably the Sierra Simone, which is the first one, which is like the last, it's like the Highwayman one. I think that one was probably my favorite. So there's that. But this was great. I gave it 4 stars. I think a lot of people are going to love it. It's very sexy. I love whenever historical romances are as sexy as this, but it just wasn't quite my cup of tea. All right, then there was this. Then there was Go Tell the Bees That I Was Gone. I read this book mostly from starting it on Monday night when it dropped on my Kindle at 11. And then the next morning, I got the Audible upgrade, because if you bought the Kindle book, the Audible upgrade was only $7.99. So I got that. And then I went and got the physical book the next morning at Target. And here it is. And I do still have my physical copy from the Poison Pen that will be signed. I will also have that coming for me. So I went a little bit overboard. But I basically only read this book from Tuesday, Wednesday, and then I finished it on Thanksgiving, right before we had our Thanksgiving dinner. So this puppy, this one is like 888 pages is how long this one was. This was obviously a 6-star book. This is everything that I wanted. It's so beautiful. I have a reading vlog that will have just slight spoilers in it because I'm reacting to certain things that I'm reading. That video will be going up very soon. And then I will also have a discussion and deep dive going up maybe a week from now, a little bit later on, to kind of, you know, do my discussion. Like, I have a lot to say and I need to process it, and I need to go back through and kind of take some notes on some things that were going on, which is pretty epic. So yeah, it was amazing. It's fantastic. I loved it. Then I did my reread of Ruthless Creatures. I hadn't actually listened to the audio of this one. I have for Carnal Urges, but I hadn't for this one. So this is one of my 6-star rereads that I'm doing. This is about Natalie, who is grieving the loss of her fiance. He disappeared on her wedding day 5 years ago, and now he is being officially declared dead. Of course, someone pulled up outside and added lines to me. Fuck you, dude. Fuck you. And then we have Cage, who starts showing up around her and actually ends up being her neighbor, and they end up in a very spicy, sexy relationship, only he's definitely not accidentally showing up around her. We'll just say that. And the mafia is involved. So there we go. Absolutely love this. It's a 6-star book for me. And then the last book that I just finished on my drive home was my reread for Dearest Rogue by Elizabeth Hoyt. We got Trevelyan and Phoebe right here. This is my scarred, wounded bodyguard hero and our heroine, who is young, plump, blind, and sassy as heck. And there's so many great tropes in this. There's forced proximity, there's age gap, the bodyguard, all of that great stuff. And this is one of my 6-star reads as well, which was absolutely wonderful. And it was just such a great week. Like, this week I didn't read a lot of new stuff, but I was reading all things that I absolutely love. This weekend I have so many arcs that I have to read. It's insane. There's so many books coming out next week. But it was just such a beautiful week, getting to read Bees, getting to spend time with my family, and yeah, it was wonderful. I hope you all had a wonderful Thanksgiving if you're in America. Anywhere else in the world, I hope you just had a great week. And yeah, thank you so much for watching this. Make sure you subscribe to my channel. I have new videos going up 3 to 4 times a week. And going into December, we're going to start having my favorite reads of the year, and it's going to be awesome. And I can't wait to share that all with you. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.